when a 17-year-old Michael Jordan met his equal at a basketball camp. There's a moment in every Legend-esque story where the world almost changed forever, a moment buried so deep in time that most fans have no idea it even happened. For Michael Jordan, that moment didn't come in Chicago or in North Carolina or even during one of his iconic NCAA highlights. It happened long before anyone knew his name, when he was just a skinny 17-year-old kid trying to prove he even belonged on the court. And the craziest part? At that camp, Michael Jordan wasn't the most famous kid there. He wasn't the most skilled. He wasn't even the most talked about. Because standing across from him was someone the world would soon describe as the only player who ever scared Michael Jordan before he became Michael Jordan, a raw, explosive, freakishly talented phenom who didn't just match Jordan, he challenged him. This meeting didn't feel like a simple summer camp introduction. It felt like a collision of futures, two kids who had no idea they were about to shape the next decade of basketball, or that their short friendship would spark a rivalry powerful enough to echo through college gyms, NBA locker rooms, and decades of what-if conversations. Back then, nobody could predict what these two teenagers would become. Nobody saw the championships, the MVPs, the shoe deals, or the global takeover coming. All anyone knew was that something unreal was happening in that gym, something electric, something no scout or coach could ignore, because before the highlight reels, before the trophies, before Air Jordan Michael met someone who pushed him, challenged him, and made him realize that greatness isn't a solo journey. It's forged in battles, in rivalries, in those rare moments when two rising stars collide at the perfect time. And on that summer day at that humble basketball camp, the kid from North Carolina met the one player who could match his hunger. And for the first time in his life, Michael Jordan realized that the road to becoming the greatest would not be easy because someone else was climbing right beside him. Section 1. The camp that created monsters. Before that summer, the five-star basketball camp wasn't just another training program, it was the proving ground where future killers were made. If you were invited, it meant someone important believed you had a real shot at greatness. The camp had already become legendary for producing stars long before the rest of the world knew their names. Coaches didn't treat it like a camp. They treated it like an audition, a test, a pressure cooker. Teenagers who showed up there came in with reputations and usually left with either a target on their back or a reality check. And in 1980, the camp felt different. It didn't just have talent, it had heat. Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, Dominique Wilkins, the kind of names that would eventually headline NBA history books. Every drill felt like a recruitment battle. Every scrimmage felt like a war. It wasn't about fun. It was about survival. But tucked into that ridiculous lineup of future pros were two players nobody really talked about. One was a lanky sophomore from Maryland who seemed confused why he was even invited. The other was an equally skinny junior from North Carolina who didn't look like he belonged with the giants around him. Len Bias, Michael Jordan. Two names that meant nothing yet, just kids blending into a sea of soon-to-be legends. But what no one realized at the time was that these two unknowns walked into the camp with something even the top prospects didn't have. A hunger so violent, so unshakable, that you could feel it before they ever opened their mouths. They weren't the loudest. They weren't the favorites. But they were the ones who stayed after the drills, replayed mistakes in their heads, and pushed themselves long after the coaches stopped watching. That summer, The toughest camp in the country didn't just test young players, it accidentally brought together two teenagers whose rivalry would shape the next 6 years of basketball. And both of them were about to catch each other's attention.
Section 2. The first meeting. Two unknowns. One spark. Bias didn't walk into the camp acting like a future star. He wasn't the loud type, and he wasn't the kid trying to impress everyone. He was raw, physically unreal, but still figuring out who he was as a player. Most scouts noted his athleticism, but nobody circled his name as the next big thing. He was just another kid hoping to survive the elite crowd. Jordan wasn't a headline either. He wasn't even close. No national buzz, no hype, no aura. Just a skinny 17-year-old with shoulders too narrow for his frame and a jump shot that wasn't polished yet. He introduced himself as Black Ice, a nickname most kids brushed off as confidence from someone trying to stand out. But Bias didn't brush him off. He noticed the intensity in Jordan's eyes, not arrogance, just the kind of sharpness you only see in someone who refuses to lose at anything. Their first real interaction wasn't during a game. It happened after hours when the main drills were done and most players were looking for food or a place to rest. Bias and his teammate Brian Waller were hanging around near the dorms when one of the camp counselors walked over with Jordan beside him. The counselor introduced them, probably not realizing he was creating a connection that would soon reshape both their careers. Jordan extended his hand. Bias nodded. Nothing flashy. No trash talk. Just two teenagers sizing each other up, the kind of moment you replay years later when you realize what it eventually meant. They didn't start off as rivals. They started as curious competitors. They'd watch each other in drills, quietly studying footwork, explosiveness, and how the other reacted to pressure. Jordan noticed Bias' raw power. Bias noticed the fire behind Jordan's effort. And before long, that mutual respect turned into something that would define them both. Because the moment they met, the clock started ticking toward a rivalry the world never expected. Section 3. A friendship built on competition. Once the introductions were out of the way, something unusual happened. Bias and Jordan didn't drift apart like most camp acquaintances. They kept running into each other on the court, in the cafeteria, during late-night conversations when the gym finally went quiet. And instead of avoiding each other, they gravitated toward the challenge. Jordan wasn't the superstar he would one day become. But even at 17, he moved with a purpose Bias couldn't ignore. He attacked every drill like the coach was giving out scholarships for whoever worked the hardest. He wasn't the most skilled kid there, but he was the hungriest. Bias recognized it instantly because he had that same engine inside him. Their friendship didn't look like the typical buddy-buddy bond. It was built on tension, the good kind. The kind where two players push each other because they expect more, not because anyone asked them to. If Jordan finished a drill first, Bias tried to beat his time. If Bias threw down a dunk that made people turn their heads, Jordan tried something wilder. They never said it out loud, but every action was a challenge. One day, after scrimmages wrapped up, Jordan asked Bias if he wanted to stay and shoot. Bias agreed, and that quiet session changed everything. Without the noise of the camp, without coaches yelling or teammates watching, it was just two kids competing. Jordan studied Bias' jumper. Bias watched how quickly Jordan exploded off the floor. They exchanged tips without ego, just two unknowns trying to get better. And somewhere during those late sessions, something clicked. They weren't just friends. They weren't just competitors. They were becoming mirrors, sharpening each other in ways no one else at the camp could. No one at 5-Star realized what they were witnessing. The early chemistry between two rising meteors who were unknowingly preparing to meet again on a much bigger stage. And the next time they crossed paths, the stakes would be 10 times higher. Section 4. The Rising Storm. two paths, one collision course. When the camp finally ended, Bias and Jordan didn't walk away as legends. They walked away as teenagers who had gotten a small taste of what real competition felt like. But while most kids returned home and blended back into normal high school basketball, something had shifted for both of them. Jordan went back to North Carolina with a new edge. He wasn't just playing for recognition anymore, he wanted domination. He knew he wasn't the most polished kid at 5-star, but he also knew none of the big names had his drive. That summer lit a fire under him, a reminder that he couldn't rely on talent alone. He had to outwork everyone. Bias returned to Maryland with a different kind of motivation. He realized he had barely tapped into what he could become. The raw athleticism was there, the world knew that much. But spending weeks around elite players forced him to confront his own potential. He didn't want to just be the athletic kid. He wanted to be a force. And as both players grew, so did the whispers. By the time Bias entered his senior year of high school, coaches and scouts were starting to notice the terrifying blend of power and smoothness in his game. Meanwhile, Jordan's trajectory was skyrocketing, a breakout year, more attention, and a growing sense that North Carolina had something special brewing. Two teenagers, two states, two different worlds, but both speeding toward the same spotlight. They didn't know it yet, but their friendship from that summer camp wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a rivalry that would soon play out under brighter lights, louder crowds, and stakes that neither of them could have imagined. And the next time they met, it wouldn't be quiet, friendly workouts. It would be a battle. Section 5. College ball brings the rivalry to life. By the time both players stepped into college basketball, the gap between them had nearly disappeared. Jordan had the early jump, the NCAA title, the iconic shot, the growing legend at North Carolina. He was no longer an unknown kid from the camp. He was beginning to look like a future superstar. His footwork tightened, his confidence sharpened, his instincts matured. Every game seemed to confirm what scouts whispered. This kid was different. Bias wasn't far behind, and the transformation was startling. The athletic high schooler from Maryland had turned into a technician. The explosiveness was still there, but now it came with balance, control, and a jumper that looked smoother with every month. He wasn't chasing Jordan's shadow anymore. He was carving out his own. Fans didn't know the history between them. They didn't know these two had once traded shots on a quiet court when nobody was watching. They just saw two rising stars headed toward an inevitable collision. And that collision came on February 12, 1983. Maryland versus North Carolina. Bias versus Jordan. Friendship put on pause. Respect replaced by urgency. From the jump, Jordan came out like a man possessed. He didn't take plays off. He didn't slow down. He controlled the pace, attacked the rim, swarmed the ball on defense, a complete takeover from the moment the ball went up. Every minute he was on the floor, the game felt tilted toward North Carolina. Bias watched it unfold from the bench, waiting for his chance, absorbing everything. He wasn't intimidated. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was calculating. He wanted to see how Jordan moved now, how much he'd changed since the camp, what new weapons he had added. Because when Bias checked in, he knew he wouldn't be facing the 17-year-old kid he once trained with. He'd be facing the new Michael Jordan, and that was exactly what he wanted. Section 6. The first true clash. Jordan explodes. Bias responds. When Bias finally stepped onto the floor, the game was already running at Michael Jordan's speed. UNC wasn't just winning, they were suffocating Maryland. Jordan controlled every inch of the court with the kind of natural dominance only a handful of college players ever show. He wasn't just scoring, he was dictating. He read passes before they left players' hands, blew up drives before they formed, and made the rim look like a wide-open ocean. In the first half alone, he dropped 15 points with a mixture of reckless aggression and terrifying efficiency. Fadeaways, mid-range pulls, baseline drives, everything was working. Maryland couldn't slow him down. Even the crowd sensed it. The kid in Carolina blue was entering a different stratosphere. But Bias wasn't the type to get starstruck. The moment he subbed in, his eyes locked on Jordan. Not in awe, in recognition. This was the same competitor he met in that camp, just sharper, older, more polished. And Bias did exactly what he had prepared for. He attacked. He cut hard to the rim. He fought for rebounds. He refused to back down defensively. He wasn't a matching Jordan-esque pace yet, but he wasn't a folding either. Then came the first moment that made the arena gasp. Bias caught the ball near the baseline, took one quick step, and exploded for a dunk that sent UNC's Brad Daugherty ducking for safety. It was a reminder, a warning, a statement. I am here too. He didn't have Jordan-esque minutes, or his rhythm, or his freedom to take over the offense. But every time he touched the ball, something loud happened. Meanwhile, Jordan kept firing. Steals, breakaway buckets, pull-ups that looked too easy. It wasn't just a good game, it was a performance you circle in the record books. And for the first time, the basketball world saw the outlines of a rivalry that had been quietly brewing for 3 years. One was peaking, one was rising. And the next year, the roles would reverse. Section 7, Bias Levels Up, the rematch that shocked everyone. A year later, everything changed. Bias wasn't the quiet freshman waiting for minutes anymore. He was a full-blown weapon. The kid who once studied Jordan from the bench now walked into games expecting to take over. Maryland trusted him. The ACC feared him. And Jordan? He knew the rematch wouldn't look anything like their first showdown. This time, when UNC and Maryland met again, the energy felt different. The arena wasn't just watching a basketball game, it was watching two rising superstars step into the same spotlight with something to prove. Jordan struck first, as he always did. Quick cuts, mid-range daggers, impossible layups. He played like a man who hated giving up even a single inch. Everything about him screamed control, from the way he moved without the ball to the way he froze defenders with a single glance. But Bias answered every single punch. He knocked down jumpers with a smoothness that shocked announcers. He bullied his way into the lane with a body that looked carved for contact. He elevated with so much power that defenders looked helpless. And for the first time in their young careers, Bias wasn't chasing Jordan. He was matching him. Possession by possession, the game turned into a live duel. Jordan would glide in for a layup. Bias would come right back with a jumper. Jordan would rise over a defender. Bias would throw down a dunk that rattled the backboard. The more they traded buckets, the more the crowd realized. This wasn't a lopsided matchup anymore. This was a rivalry. Bias finished the night outscoring Jordan the first time anyone his age had done it on a major stage. His performance wasn't just impressive, it was a declaration. He wasn't Jordan's understudy or the other talent in the ACC. He was his equal, and the basketball world finally felt the shift that had been building since that day at camp. Michael Jordan had a real challenger. Section 8, the final showdown. Jordan's response and the rivalry, the unwritten future. By the time their third and final college meeting arrived, the stakes were different. Jordan wasn't just a rising name anymore, he was the name. The NBA was circling him. Scouts packed arenas just to watch him warm up. Every game he played felt like a preview of something bigger, and he knew exactly who was waiting on the other side of the court. Bias. The same kid who had matched him bucket for bucket. The one who had outscored him the year before. The one who refused to fold under pressure. Jordan respected him, but he also understood something deeper. Greatness demands statement games, and this matchup was a chance to reclaim the edge. From the opening tip, Jordan played with a coldness even his teammates weren't used to. Precise footwork, brutal efficiency, and aggression that felt almost personal. Every shot wasn't just a basket, it was a message. Every steal, every rebound, every perfectly timed cut whispered the same thing: I am still ahead. Bias didn't shrink from it. He never did. He attacked with the same fearlessness that made him a legend at Maryland. He hit tough shots. He powered his way through contact. He kept Maryland alive through sheer will. But for the first time in their rivalry, the gap widened. Not because Bias played poorly, but because Jordan had become something different, something refined, something terrifying. Jordan finished with 25 points on astonishing efficiency, signaling he was ready for the NBA. Bias battled the 16 of his own, but even he felt what everyone else saw. Jordan had taken another leap. Still, the respect between them didn't fade. If anything, that game cemented it. Because as Bias walked off the floor, he didn't feel defeated. He felt destined. And everyone watching felt the same thing: these two were on a collision course for the next decade of basketball. Two rivals, two forces, two futures intertwined. The only thing left was time. The rivalry that could have redefined basketball. When Michael Jordan walked off that court after their final clash, he stepped straight into NBA history. The world knows what happened next. The meteoric rise, the championships, the dynasty, the shoe empire, the icon who bent the sport to his will. His story became the blueprint for greatness. But the story of Len Bias is the one that still sends chills down the spine of anyone who knows it. Because years later, when Bias entered the 1986 NBA draft, he wasn't just another lottery pick. He was the one player scouts believed could stand next to Jordan, not behind him, not below him, but beside him. He had the athleticism, the jumper, the body, the mentality. Every coach who watched him at Maryland said the same thing. He was coming, and that was the beauty of their rivalry. Bias wasn't trying to be Jordan. Jordan wasn't trying to be Bias. They were building toward each other, pushing each other, sharpening each other without even realizing it. The tragedy, of course, is that the basketball world never got to see what that rivalry would have become. Bias never played an NBA game. The universe closed a door that countless fans still wish had stayed open. But here's what makes their story unforgettable. Even in that brief window, a summer camp introduction, a handful of college battles, scattered moments of competition, Bias became one of the only players who ever made a young Michael Jordan feel not alone at the top, but matched. He proved that greatness doesn't always arrive with a spotlight. Sometimes it walks quietly into a gym at 17 years old and shakes the world without anyone noticing. Jordan's legend kept rising. Bias' legend froze in time. Yet both remain connected by a simple truth. For a moment, a real, undeniable moment, the greatest player in basketball history met someone climbing the same mountain. And if fate had cooperated, the story of the NBA might look very different today. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.